I'm going to just bring up our mics here before I transition in because I think that's fun. Little candid conversation going on.
Boop. I enjoy the random lo-fi that you and Alex pick.
Yeah. I didn't know
I do the same thing.
Where does he get his
I got like a retro gaming mix that I absolutely adore. And it's like, I feel like I'm just back in that arcade after getting out of high school in like, 9th, 10th grade. And it just feels good.
Man, you lucky guy. I didn't have an arcade. Like, it's actually funny. I started the arcade that is in this town. Was? I don't know. But
at one point.
At some point. Good morning, afternoon, evening, everybody, and welcome to the Meme War Game Jam. We're here with you, celebrating all the creations that you made inside this game jam over the last month or so. You did a lot of work. We got a lot of submissions. We play tested those submissions. We're ready to give out some great awards. Here with me today, let me see if I can get this correct. In mind, body, and soul, through the magic of the internet, Lucas is right. Lucas, how are you doing today?
I am doing wonderful. It was was a little bit of a journey just to get here today. I left the house for some odd reason. I don't ask me why. And as I was on my way back, all the freeways in the world decided to close down. So
Oof.
I felt like, Frodo and Sam traveling to Mount Doom, just trying to get home. I mean, there was orcs, there was urukai. I mean, it was just like I was fighting with goblins just to get here. But I got here, and I'm excited to be here because Game Jam award days are one of my favorite days, and I just love them.
Cool.
Love them.
See, Chad, he left out the fact that it's 100-degree temperatures every single day, so he actually lives on Mount Doom, it turns out.
It's nice, though. Real estate, it's affordable when you live in a volcano.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. All right, Chad. So let's talk about what's going on here in this Game Jam. Let me see if I can get my P's and Q's together here. First of all, there is a 60,000 sand token prize pool that will be awarded here in the duration of this show. Meme coin extra awards. The live awards, of course, are happening right now. And registration for this jam was had to be done by August 14th. So obviously we're well past that. Jump into the Meme War Game Jam Challenge. So meme, many coins, very culture. Wow, this is your chance to transform internet sensations into interactive adventures or epic battles for meme supremacy. The Game Jam stage is yours to own. You were asked to channel your creativity and immerse yourself in the meme coin culture. The specifics for the Meme War, the theme that players were looking to do here today, multiplayer. The game must be designed for multiplayer gameplay. I'm happy to report that all submissions that came in did that this time. So thank you so much for always having these be multiplayer games. Also, just if you're looking for games to play, chat, multiplayer games, in my opinion, are quite a bit more fun. There are a lot of replayability. You add a nice competitive element. You can have fun with your friends as you're hanging out in this space. So I was super happy to be able to test this jam. I had a lot of fun with that. Another piece, in fact, it did have to be competitive multiplayer, not just multiplayer in that you could possibly exist in this space at the same time. So that means you were looking for possibly team-based challenges, a battle royale format, one versus all modes, or other innovative multiplayer formats where players vie for supremacy. And it must be meme-themed. That means
meme theme
has to focus on memes and meme culture. You can create your own memes, interpret existing ones, or use popular memes. Just be mindful of copyright issues. So in the case of this jam, it seems like everybody did pretty well in those regards as well. Nobody ended up getting disqualified either for violating copyright or anything. So very good job. And we're here to have some fun. So there were some ideas to get you started. Meme faction wars, battle royale chaos, dynamic arenas, unpredictable power-ups. Some of these things were used along the way. And I think you'll notice this in these results. If this is your first game jam that you are attending the awards ceremony for, just know that we will be playing in the duration of this show the top 10 in no particular order. Also in that video is any honorable mentions that may also receive awards. So the awards will vary in this show from the traditional. So let's talk about what the prizes are. First place gets 15,000 sand tokens, a 1x1 land,
dang,
a gold catalyst pack. The catalyst packs can be used for asset creation, so you can create your own tokenized assets that have a certificate of authenticity on the Polygon Matic blockchain. What that means is you can create an NFT with those catalyst packs. And so if you have a piece of art that you really like, then you can now mint that using the VoxEdit asset creation software. Second place, 8,000 sand, a 1x1 land, and a silver catalyst pack, similar to a gold catalyst pack, but with different Catalyst assets. And the variance between those is essentially how rare can I make this thing? But you'll have a nice opportunity for minting. Third place gets 5,000 sand, 1x1 land, silver catalyst. Fourth is 3,000 sand, 1x1 land, silver catalyst pack. 1,500 sand, 1x1 land, bronze catalyst pack for 5th through 10th place. So if you are watching and you see that your game is in the top 10, you're getting at least 1,500 sand, a 1x1 land, and a bronze catalyst pack. Also, in the duration of this show, we may show your game in the 4th through 1st place. We've got special trailers just for those that showcase just your game. And then honorable mentions, where the judges were allowed to give up to 10 different games or experiences an honorable mention. 1,000 sand and a 1x1 land will be issued to people who win an honorable mention as well. So if you don't make it into the top 10, we'll show you some honorable mentions that have been given here today. And we're going to give feedback along the way, where Lucas and I have the notes that I wrote specifically during the judging. Other judges, of course, were present, but I like to read my notes back to you guys. So you have an opportunity to understand either maybe why you got into honorable mentions instead of the top 10, or ways that you can improve your games even if they are in the top 10 to make them super high quality when you get ready to publish them on your 1x1 land. So anyway, without further ado...
Can I throw something out there really quick?
Yes, sir.
The notes, it is one of my favorite parts of all this. It's one of my favorite parts of what Joe does, because he goes the extra step to actually take notes and provide that feedback in a format like this. And to anybody who's never been involved in the gaming world and they're new to all this, that might not seem like that big of a deal. Oh, so he jotted down his thoughts. So, but he's a professional QA analyst, and I don't think everybody understands like what actually goes into like legitimate QA work. I mean, there's a lot of people out there that do understand it, but there's some out there that don't. For them, I want to explain it a little bit. And it is such a valuable asset because you play your game so many times. You know exactly what to do. You know exactly where to go and how to go there and what to do when you go there. And having a professional actually view this from an outsider's perspective is so helpful. And on top of that, if you actually pay for QA work, it's so expensive. And I looked into like paying for a QA company for a couple projects, and it blew my mind how much QA work really is, even on the lower end of the spectrum. So just wanted to like throw that out there, because I hear these notes and I take notes on Joe's notes. Just so you all know, like, because I want to know like where his brain is at and what he thinks and how he thinks, because I feel like I'm getting a cheat sheet into the QA world, and it's super valuable. So pay attention to that portion. He puts a lot of time and a lot of effort into it. And I mean, when I say a lot of time, I mean hours upon hours upon hours. Yeah. And so just give it some actual attention, because it will be helpful.
Well, I'll tell you a funny thing actually about the so these notes are basically cliff notes, right, for the game jam, compared to what we normally do, which is like taking video, taking screenshots, circling things specifically and sending them back to devs and being like, this is exactly the spot where I can break this. And, you know, and we've done that on shows before here on this channel, but, you know, you guys get the sort of abridged version as we come into this, because this is, you know, a larger format. You're talking about, I think the one of the larger game jams that I did, I had like 80 hours in a week just to get through all of the tests, just for the game jam, not counting regular kind of QA works we were doing. And, you know, I'm taking notes for each and every one of those. And if anybody ever asks, we as the council will actually send out my notes to you in an email. So if you have specific requests for your notes, even if you don't make it into the honorable mentions, just ask and we'll send you what we've got. But then also on top of that, it's always meant to be constructive, and that's important. You know, having been in the sandbox now for 4 years in this ecosystem, my goal is always to help you, you know, improve and get better as we go. Because whether you end your video game development life like here and with the sandbox, or if you go on to do more, really the rules, the core parts of what makes games good, what, how you should test your games or get that quality check. Those things always stay the same. And it doesn't matter if you're building in Unity or Unreal, you're building on the Sandbox engine, whatever you're doing. Those principles are the same. So I want to help you become a better developer, and that's what this feedback is all about. This is why we came back for these Game Jam award shows, to give you, the best contribution that I possibly can anyway. And along the way, we're having fun. It is funny though.
Constructive criticism is the key.
I had to kind of explain this to a lot of people, because when obviously if I'm doing QA dev stuff like all the time, the fun thing that I can say, I can tell people, I play video games, for a living. And then they're like, oh, that's great. But really it's like 20% gaming and 80% spreadsheets. And I'm like, it's all notes. So anyway, let's have some fun here. We've got a lot of folks lighting up to chat today. So thanks for hanging out with us here early on in the live stream. And let's get straight into, got about a 4-minute, 45-second trailer that is compiling all of the award winners, whether you're in the top 10 or you're in those honorable mentions. And once again, just take note that these are in no particular order in this trailer, and we will reveal the top 4 with the sort of larger scale awards right after this trailer.
Boom.
Boom, boom. Caribbean meme Pirate Wars in that top 10. All right, Meme Bay. And I'm going to go into some of the details about what each of these experiences was like as soon as we finish on through this trailer here. We'll go back to front. Catalyst War. Meme Snipers. It's funny how many of these have name in the title, right? The meme game jam, of course, that makes sense.
Makes sense.
Meme Ball. Meme Soldiers Boot Camp.
Digging that the avatar outfit on this.
Oh yeah, there were a lot of them that did that, which is really cool. Like almost before you even get started, you're kind of picking your team. Right, last meme standing.
You get to ride a little whale.
Candle Clash. Magic Stick Tag.
I'm about to say, that avatar looks familiar.
Meme Trophy Wars. And the honorable mentions here today. Meme Bomb Mayhem. Kaboom! Eclipse Showdown. Memes Mass Outbreak. Degen Team Clash.
I mean, you can't have a meme war without some degens running around.
Absolutely not. There's going to be degens everywhere in a meme war. G is us asking a question here in the chat. Airdrops War is in the honorable mentions. I forgot. Was this the memes or meme coins? So it is memes, but degens versus normies in the honorable mentions. It is memes, but meme coins, of course, apply to that. And I think, given the nature of our... And I'm going to go ahead and pause it right here. That's the end of the honorable mentions. And we're going to go back. We are going to back to front on those honorable mentions really quickly, just to give you all some feedback. Because once again, the goal of this show is going to be, of course, to celebrate you guys winning. Because you're doing a terrific job making some great games here today. But also to make sure that if you did get honorable mention and you're wondering, how can I get into that top 10? How can I break through in that next game jam? We're going to help you get there as best we can with some quick notes. So let me go back here. And let's see. I think the first one is degens versus normies. So I don't have all the individual trailers in moments past. Alex, who does all the editing for these videos, usually just has them stored on his PC and he can pull them up real quick. So I just have this video, so forgive me if it doesn't stay up on a loop, but we're going to give you feedback to that. So Avi, or I think it's Avi, maybe it's AVL, had and degens versus normies. Okay. So one of the things that happened for me with degens versus normies, as I'm looking at it, when we play through these, typically we don't have as big of a simultaneous player sample size. We've got folks who are in France, we've got some of us who are in the US, we've got folks, I believe, in Korea, in the Philippines, who are doing some of these tests as well. But when we do these tests, we do them in sort of a smaller sample size. So I made a note here that said, I like the start of some of the interesting parkour elements, but it's not very interesting for the chaser unless you've got 10 to 15 other players. Knowing that you'll have a 20-person cap in any experience, you'll want to scale this better for fewer players by adding in more options in the parkour elements. You could give players more depth and replayability. Consider ways to allow the normies to hide and ways to obstruct the degens. And so what I'm talking about with this, and I'm not sure that it's going to really show through in the trailer too much, but I'll try to explain it here. So as we spawn in to degens versus normies, what happens is the first player is the degen. You're the tagger, right? You want to go get these people who are normies and interrupt their gameplay loops. And the normies are trying to score some points by going through a couple of parkour obstacles. Again, this is to the best of my recollection. It's been a little while since I played through.
Sounds like you're describing it pretty right.
Yeah. So and what happened is essentially the degen only had like one option or one thing that they could really do to interfere with the normies, and the normies only had like two paths that they could take and no opportunities to hide. So what I would be looking for to add depth to this is first of all, if there's only one person, it's really just a question of who's better at bouncing around, right? Who's better at jumping up these tiles and getting into the parkour space. So if there are few parkour options, you want to make sure that there's a ramping degree of difficulty as people sort of start to take those parkour tracks, so that a highly skilled player can always beat a lower skilled player. So the easy part at the beginning, right? The difficult part at the end, and that theme will probably come up a lot if we talk about parkour, just in general. We talk about this all the time in the private QA tests as well. That like you want to start easy and get more difficult as you go. Reward the player for their skill. So the excuse me, I got a little audio interference going on. Anyway, so really. Besides that, if you make some paths that go underground as much as you have paths that go above ground, then when the tagger, the Degen, has to go get the players that may be underground, it gives players who are above ground an opportunity to take actions without being afraid of being seen. So maybe higher point allocating actions towards the normies could be possible above ground with a higher degree of difficulty, and then the underground could maybe be easier to get points, but there's nowhere to hide once you're under there, right? Because you're kind of stuck through like one singular tunnel or something. But that's pretty much the gist of the Degens versus normies experience. And as I'm looking, I'm gonna go ahead and look and see at what I individually rated each category on, because if you are not familiar, folks, there are 4 categories plus a bonus category that you can score points in for these Game Jam awards. One of them is this a creative idea? Which is, to say, does it feel sort of unique, or is it inspired by the theme? You can get extra points for that sometimes. Or, gameplay wise, sometimes the game design itself, the way that the game plays, could feel creative or unique and get extra points with that. Then there's level design, and the level design is really what I was talking about with like the tunnels or the way that you've built out the parkour elements. Is it allowing for player agency based off of the level design? Does it reward the player for their skills? And this is all before you've even started with the mechanics of the game, for the most part. And then there's the game design itself. So in that game design, you're talking about those game mechanics. You're talking about the logics that you've built into the game. And those logics can sometimes come, like the things that'll take a game from a 4 to a 5 is usually like, when I grab the trinket on the ground, does it make a little ding noise? And when I succeeded a quest, do I get like a light burst that sort of, and again, a sound that responds with that. Sometimes it's more complex.
So you're asking them to showcase the logic.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, the game design should be it should be showing me everything. But really, you want to showcase the logic, but you showcase the logic because it makes that fuzzy part of your brain go, yay, I did it, right? Like if you are sparking joy in me playing your game, then your game design must be good. Right? Like reward. It's just automatic. Yes. If you make that reward mechanism go off in my brain, then your game design is going well. If I look at a game and I see really strong game design, usually the playability score, which is the 4th category, is also pretty good, because the game logics are going to be necessary for, can I play it? But also playability includes replayability. Do I feel like I would want to do this again? And if a game seems like I would want to do it many times, then I'm going to give it a very high playability score. If the game seems like I want to play it a couple times, then it might get a 4 out of 5. And if the game is pretty fine, like if it's fine, then I'll give it a 3, or it may go down to 2 or 1, depending on if something overtly broke, or if the game feels kind of short, like it wasn't fleshed out, I might go down to like a 2. And if the game just doesn't work at all, then it's going to get a 1 or a 0 potentially. And then there is one fifth factor, which isn't worth as many points. You can only get a 1 or a 2 on this one, but it's something sort of nebulous called wow factor. So if your game is checking sort of all the boxes, or it does one thing really, really well, but maybe, it just felt like you didn't have enough time to get things done or whatever, we may award you wow factor points. And, usually wow factor points tend to account for the things that get honorable mentions if they didn't get, if they didn't get enough points to be in the top 10, stuff like that. And then we take all those scores and we round them out to their averages, or their total points rather, based on all the judges that play through these experiences through the multiple, usually week or 2 that we're all testing on any one of these. But for this particular experience, Degens versus Normies, I personally gave this one a 2 for creative idea. Simply because most of what's happening in this experience is happening in about a third of the map. And while there is some vertical, there's really nothing going on under. And the gameplay complexity isn't super high. But none of that, of course, is really like a long-term, downside. It's just something to think about as you go into the next game jam.
Absolutely.
Spending a little bit more time usually on your experience just on like a notepad. Like, I mean, it could be a paper one if you want it to be, but like I usually open the notepad app and I think about, this is the last thing that I want. I want the game to do this, and then start taking like bullet points of how do I get there before you get to the part where, you actually get to build it in the game maker. And I actually find this to be useful when we're in, that like application time, you submit to be able to start. That's when I'm starting to take notes, literal notes, and not like, because you're not really putting in dev time, but you're organizing your brain so you don't end up spending too much time making assets, but you spend the correct amount of time because you know what you need, and you don't spend too much time building out the logics, but you're building logics that you need, and you can get your head around it a little better that way.
Efficient and effective.
So let's see. I'm gonna go ahead and move on to the next one here. From Degens versus Normies, you got Airdrops War, and let's see if I can find that note.
While you're looking up that note, we have a question from Extreme Arcader. This might be a question for Alex, or if not, if you can answer it, go for it. If somebody in the chat can answer it, please, by all means. But Extreme Arcader asks, he says, hey guys, had a question on Game Builder. Was creating a game in draft right now on my system desktop, and when I open my laptop with the same Sandbox account, the draft experience is not present in the workshop area. Any ideas what's going on? And then I asked some questions. He said, I only have the one account, but the thing is, I have just reset the system where I created the game. So just wondering, is the game saved on local computer memory or cloud? Any ideas?
Okay. So you're, if you just reset your system, do you sign in to Sandbox.game with a wallet, or do you sign in with your email and password? I guess most people can probably do email and password these days. The game should be saved on cloud. This is something that I think they did about a year ago. Again, this is just to the best of my knowledge, because I typically, as testers, we would sign in with a dev account to do that. And they make their own unique account. But I guess that's to the point that it should definitely be saved on cloud, because I sign in, like if I was testing your game in a private test, I use your username and password in the game maker and I open your game in that. So yeah, it should be saved in cloud. So really it's just making sure that you didn't accidentally sign in. Like one thing that I see happen all the time is people might accidentally click the sign in button and then they accidentally click the sign up with like Google. You know what I mean? So make sure you sign in with your email address and password just to, save yourself that trouble. Logged in with the username and password on my laptop and desktop both. And I have reset the desktop so it's not available there. Okay, and I'm seeing some comments from G is us before we go into the next one as well. But Extreme Arcader, if you have further questions, you can also ask them directly on the official Discord. And there are supportive ambassador folks there as well who can reach out to the team if for some reason they can't get you the answer quickly. But they answer questions like this all the time. So I think it'd be more common for them. I'm seeing another question in the chat from G is us saying, can we integrate a URL function into farming / engagement, for example? So
as of right now, I don't believe that functionality is available.
Yeah, no, I don't think so either. I sort of would look for a more complete question to that, because
that's the entirety of it basically.
Okay, yeah, because right
so he's
now
asking if there's integration.
There's no integration for, and I saw a proposal I think for this. Yeah, it's currently live. So if you're not familiar, the Sandbox has a DAO, which is currently available, right? So if you're holding sand tokens or if you're holding land tokens, then you could participate in the DAO. So if you have proposals or ideas for things that, that could help this ecosystem, or could help your development even, propose them over there on sandboxdao.com. And you can start it up as a conversation in their forums. And once that conversation gets fleshed out, there's official Sandbox DAO staffers there that help work with Sandbox team to get more of an idea of scope and maybe what it would take to make that happen. And they'll sort of do like a viability check for you for your DAO proposal. And then the DAO council will make a recommendation as to whether they think it's viable based on your plan or not. And I've seen folks who have gone sort of working together with that DAO team for upwards of weeks on ideas just to make sure that like things are as integrated as they possibly can before that pitch goes live, and then it goes to a vote for sand and land holders. So if you're not familiar with that process, that could be a great way to see other types of integrations, assuming that there is available budget for those types of integrations. And of course, you can look at the details of the budget there. Once again, on sandboxdao.com. Thank you for linking that, Luca. I see you on X.
I got you, boo-boo.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Okay, so let's move back onto those notes about Airdrops War. So Airdrops War now started out with the word unfortunately on this note, chat. So that's sort of a tell for me, in my opinion, when I'm doing my vote. Like if I start with the word unfortunately, it's because there's good stuff, but I'm not sure that it's going to make it into the top 10. So it says inconsistent mechanics in a good concept here. So in this particular experience, Airdrops War, I don't know if I'll be able to show it well. Yeah, okay. So right here on this screenshot, you see these giant blue pads here. These giant blue pads acted like a classic arcade machine, where in this classic arcade machine, you put in a quarter or whatever. Back in the day when we used quarters, now you swipe a card and a coin falls in. You put in a quarter, and the quarter falls to the back of the machine, and it pushes other coins forward off the front of a ledge, right? These are just known as pushers in the industry. So if the pusher, this is my note, if the pusher was the full length of the field with the containers above our heads, this would be a more solid mechanically. As things are, it makes more sense to shove all the tokens off the center platform into the pushers rather than carry them as the game suggests. Interesting how either side can add negative points to the enemy team, so good use of counterplay. I would love to see it a bit more solid as well, or is all. A bit more solid is all. Well done. So what I'm talking about here is these pushers in the game as it stands now. And this is if Alcy Studio is watching, and hopefully this is helpful to you. Right now, what would happen is you start the game, and no matter how many players are playing, a whole bunch of meme coins fell out of the sky into this center platform. And you could press E and you could pick up a coin and you could turn and you could throw it into your pusher. But the pusher catapults that coin, yeet, across the map into...
I like eating things.
Into that yellowish capsule that's behind the pusher, if you see it here on the screen. So what ends up happening is on the right side, coins are getting thrown to the left. And on the left side, coins are getting thrown to the right. And the physics of the game, it ends up being a little bit lucky if it works. So the best way to play the game is to not press E, because all the coins have to have their physics turned on. And you just stand on the opposite side of the coins when they're going to drop. And you just use your character's body to just shove them into the pusher. And then watch like 8 coins go. But there was a mechanic that required the player to pay attention. And so we can see here on the bottom of the screen, you've got a certain number of points. And it says for Shiba coin, Pepe coin, Degen coin, and I think Dogecoin. It's a very small preview window for me, chat. Anyway, so these coins that are here, their points value changed randomly. So if I do throw a Degen coin into my bin, that Degen coin might be worth negative points.
Were you able to tell what the value was before throwing?
Yes, you could.
Okay.
But because it was so inconsistent or difficult to throw the coins in, you weren't sure if it was a good idea. Also, coins, when they went into the bin, were considered what they called staked. And those coins would continuously rack up points for you. So if the token became negative, then it was continuously racking up negative points, which allowed for counterplay, but it didn't necessarily allow for consistency long term. And so in the end, you pretty much, like I said, you just shoved all the coins onto your pusher. Hopefully you got more coins than the other person or the other people, the other team rather, because it's just 2 teams. Regardless, it was pretty fun. And as I mentioned here, if you go back and you re-listen to the notes on VOD or something, the suggestions that I made are just to make point earning a little bit more consistent and incentivize people to actually pick up the coins and move them instead of just shoving them to So the core idea of the game is really interesting and could make some good multiplayer competitive environment possible. So I'd like to see essentially like if you just flipped where the pushers were and then turned them around the other way and didn't make them catapult stuff, then I think you would have a really high quality thing here. So let's go ahead and move on to the next one with that. Lucas, do you have any notes or ideas or thoughts?
We do have a question from Marshall, if I can throw that out here right now.
Yeah.
So Marshall, I'm condensing a very constructive comment to a very short instance, but they said, I'm always confused about game jam judging. Like, is level design visual actually important in a game jam? Can a game with 0 level design get first place?
Okay, so let me break down the categories again really quickly so that you can understand how these are structurally actually are. So
Mhm.
4 categories that you can really control. Creative idea, number 1. That's essentially a mix of arts and aesthetics, and more heavily, are you doing something different here, right? So this meme war was, I'm gonna bring this up here on the screen here in a second here, but there were some ideas that were put out there. Let me merge this in one more time. Okay. In the original submission, it said, make a game multiplayer, make a game competitive, make it meme themed. The ideas to get you started: meme faction wars, battle royale chaos, dynamic arenas, and unpredictable power-ups. So what happens, right, when we, from the Sandbox side, put up a post like this, is you sort of put people in a box unless they can be creative, right? So you end up getting a lot of submissions that are meme themed. And you'll notice here on these trailers that almost every single submission is Sheeb coin, Pepe coin, Doge coin in almost every single one of them. Because this community tends to be crypto focused, and it tends to be, those are the biggest coins, right? So one of the ways you could have been creative when I'm testing dozens up to hundreds, depending on the popularity of these contests, when I'm testing all these, in this case, one of the ways you could have been creative was making the thing that we competed in have, I don't know if you know the meme of the girl who's looking backwards at the camera while the house is on fire behind her.
Fire girl.
Yeah. Okay. Or the girl who's got kind of like protruding teeth, blonde girl. She's like, right? If you give me a game that somehow in the background integrates that meme where the guy's with his girlfriend, but he's turning around and looking at somebody else, that is nuanced. That's creative. And those layers, that depth, gives me a reason to give you additional points in creative idea. If you do that well enough, you might get wow factor bonus points out of something like that. So when you talk about, is it necessary to develop the level, it's a question of a 4 or a 5 out of 5. Now, level design is different than the creativity portion. So when you talk about, like, a game could look really, really bland. A game could look like it's just a bunch of the block assets that are grass, right? That you would find in a default template. Level design is when you're designing with intent to help people path better through your game, or in the case of a multiplayer game, if you think about, like, multiplayer shooter games give people usually 3 to 5 lanes to sort of operate in, and each of those lanes has like 1 or 2 alternative pathway connecting the opposite sections. And you've got some verticality differences as well that allow the game to feel dynamic. So if I'm in a multiplayer competitive game where we're playing tag, just the level design alone, that terraforming of the level, can make the game engaging and fun for the player. It gives the player the ability to, as I mentioned in the first one, hide. It gives the player the ability to have some skill-based play without even getting into the logics mechanics of the game. So and then there's the game design portion. That's when you get into the logics mechanics of the game. And so a game like this one had pretty good game design in terms of logics, but it lost a few points as I'm talking about Airdrops War, right? It lost a couple of points in the fact that while the logics were really good, there's inconsistency in the player's ability to play it. So it lacks a little bit of game design in that sense, that like when I put a coin on a pusher, I don't guarantee that even works. And so you set the expectation that this is how we get points, but the player doesn't meet that expectation every time. And so the player might become frustrated. And that's the difference between 3 and a 4. Points are going to go down a little bit if your players could get frustrated playing your game. So there is subtlety and there's nuance to sort of the way that these things get reviewed. But hopefully that helps you better understand the difference between like, creativity, art design, and then like level design in terms of layout. And level design also sometimes goes into like where you respawn. If you had a situation to respawn, if you've got a level that's like taking up the full 128 meters of verticality in your land, then if I die on floor 5, I don't want to respawn on floor 1. Right? Like you want it to, yeah, it's a small setback, but your small setback shouldn't take you back more than maybe 15 seconds of player time. Otherwise, the player will go like, oh, I have to go all the way back there. And so there are small things to think about in those level designs. But again, hopefully that's helpful to you, Marshall. Yes.
That drives me insane when something brings you all the way back to some sort of a beginning.
All right, so let's go back here. The next experience was Degen Team Clash, and I want to get a good frame here. I think this is probably the best frame that I can use to describe Degen Team Clash. Okay, so at the very beginning of Degen Team Clash, again, this is an honorable mention experience. You had an opportunity to speak with a couple of squirrel NPCs. I don't know why they were squirrels. That's fine. It didn't
necessarily. They like squirrels.
It's not on theme. It's not off theme. The game was fairly simplistic visually, mechanically pretty good. But when speaking with the squirrel on one team or another, to say how many players are on each side may not be necessary. So we had a chance and a requirement really to say, is there, I believe, 1 or 2 players on each team. So you run into something a little bit wrong with that when you say there's only 1 or 2 players. As I recall, again, this isn't the case, but I think this is what happened. But when you have it, instead of being a proximity-based trigger that teleports all those players, you have it currently set to saying I have 1 or 2 people. And that limits your game, which has a potential 20-person lobby, to 4 maximum people. So, you're going to have 18 people or 16 people standing around, right? 16 people would just be waiting to possibly play. And that lobby area actually happens on a lower plane than what you see in this screenshot right here. So what that also means is your 16 players who can't play also can't see the other players play.
They can't watch.
Yes. So you've got a lack of engagement from most of the people who maybe want to play. That's one thing. If you avoided the idea of having to talk to the squirrel to determine how many people are playing, and instead just said, go pick a team, and people run to one side or the other and they get shoved into this, with their stuff, or potentially pick up a piece of equipment, and that equipment is the tell to the game logic of which team you're on, like a laser tag
I saw one game where you're just saying, they had to pick up a piece of equipment, but to pick up that equipment, you had to go through a door. Yep. And when somebody went through the door closed behind them. It was a proximity sensor. They'd go through the door, it would sense them going through, and it would close. And then once they'd pick up the equipment then they were on that team for that equipment, good versus evil kind of thing. And as one door was closing, another door was opening. So it forced people into one or the other.
Yeah. So okay. And then I wrote here, collecting tokens seems to be possible for both teams simultaneously, which is fine, just notable. And what I mean by that is on the screen here, you see these silver tokens that, there's one that's roughly like right here up above the lake. And those silver tokens take just a little while to be picked up because of the multiplayer connectivity. You run through it, it's going to detect whether you ran through it. So if Lucas and I were both playing and we're competing against each other, but we're running the exact same line, we can actually both pick up the token. So that is something to note, is that maybe you want to work on like the proximity to trigger that pickup. But you'll have to balance that with, is there physics on the asset, which there probably shouldn't be in the case of these coins. I can't remember if that's there. Also wrote, because of the defeat/victory screen, the game is not replayable. This is a huge thing. In a multiplayer game, in a competitive multiplayer game, where we've got these 20-person lobbies, you do not want to have one team or another succeed or fail to the point where it turns the game off. Because a couple of things happen. The first thing is it subtly tells your player to look at what time it is. And a little known secret in the arcades, in the video games, in the casino worlds, you never want your player to look at the clock. And when you give us a defeat or a victory screen, it gives me a chance to go, oh, geez, it's 11:58 a.m. my local time. I got to go do this thing. No. You want people addicted to your game, right? So
why do you think they don't have clocks in casinos?
That's what I'm saying. We don't want those defeat or victory screens in your multiplayer games. You want the game to be able to reset as part of your game logics when you finish with a thing. This also would be, this makes that like small group lobby thing even worse, because then you would have 16 people standing around waiting to play the next round, and there is no next round. They all get the defeat screen. So not only did they not get to watch, but they literally are told they were defeated. They will feel defeated because they didn't get an opportunity to play. And they may not come back. And so we want to avoid that for your game. And let me see. Art direction for the characters should be a bit more interesting, I wrote in, but really not a bad game at all. So that's the end of the sentence. Essentially, it comes down to the map is pretty diverse in terms of the, where the coins are. There's some skill-based mechanics like that entire wall in the background, which has some nice hills and valleys even on the top of the wall. Is slightly difficult to get onto the wall. So there's some skill-based play there. So when I was playing against the people that I was playing against, they were mostly down on like the ground level trying to collect all those coins. And I was like, ha, suckers, as I'm running along the tops of the wall, collecting a whole bunch more coins than they were able to get because I had the skill to be able to get up there quickly. And they didn't get up there as fast as I did. So snooze, you lose. But a good game, nonetheless. All right, I want to make sure that we have all the questions answered here as we continue on. And it looks like we're caught up with the chat, so that's good to know.
Oh yeah, we're staying up to date.
Good to know. All right. And we're going to go back to Memes Mass Outbreak. Okay, so Memes Mass Outbreak does something that it actually doesn't show here on the screen. Due to the technical limitations that this person is going to have of just recording themselves play. So Memes Mass Outbreak is actually a split two-side experience with two different teams. But you'll never see the other team. You only see how many points the other team is scoring. And this worked correctly, but let me go down to their notes so I can talk about it here. I wrote, while attacking assets was made clear at the start, there's not much reason to run around. The game is best played by standing still and waiting for assets to come back to the player along predefined lines. With the timer made clear, I waited until there was about 10 seconds left from each round, then collected a pile of coins. Not always would the coins properly collect. So what happens in Meme's Mass Outbreak is you can see that the character is attacking an NPC here on the screen. But the NPCs moved along an average of 6 or so predefined paths, straight lines, right? And there was no randomness to it. They would spawn roughly every 3 seconds, and they're just going down these lines. And the player is attacking, I think you had to hit them twice to kill any given asset. It didn't matter if it was that, like, I don't know, what is this? That it says dog on its chest, so I'm going to say that's a dog, you know?
I'm going to say, it's
we could attack
dog.
the dog. You could attack the player. You could attack a demon or something that would come out, and they would come through the walls to you or off the edges to you. And they would just keep coming in the line. So generally, I would find where 2 lines maybe intersected, and I would stand right at that intersection and just look in and go, whoop, whoop, as they arrived, and have 2 piles of coins, and then just collect all the coins. And the other player did not do this. The other player chased everything around, went, frantic, trying to go get everything, didn't let those things come to them, and collected the coins as they killed. And I ended up getting an average of like 30% more coins every time. Just
pro gamer.
Problem, however, is the optimal gameplay loop was less interesting, because I'm just standing there and I'm waiting.
Mm-hmm.
1, 2, 3, swing. 1, 2, 3, swing. So you want to create game mechanics that keep the player engaged, allow for variation, and then allow them as well to learn that skill-based play. So that's really where the lack is on this one. If these NPCs aren't on predefined lines, but get to like meander in a different zone or something, or have spawners that will like pop them up randomly, then it would make me have to go run over to this cave-like thing where the dogs spawned out of and attack those dogs, and then run back to the other side and attack all the demons, and go get all the humans or whatever. And that would have created balance between me and the other players, and it would have created a skill-based play for realizing what is the optimal path there. So just some basic ideas, but once again, it's always with the idea of encouragement that you take the skills that you develop here and you take those into the next game. And we've seen a lot of great success stories in these dev groups of people who have gotten these skills and have made tremendous games. In the last game jam, had a game from Life Made Me Paul, who pops up in the chat quite a lot, where I was like, no way they made this, because I remember their first game, and their first game was like had an interesting plot but didn't have like super great mechanics, and now their mechanics are as good as their plot. And I'm like, it's just, this is what you want.
It's so much fun seeing players develop over time. I'm seeing developers develop over time. Like, been streaming for a while now, and so we've actually been embedded in this community for so long that we've seen people come and start their journey, and then years later they're still here. And seeing that progress, it's like the ultimate time-lapse video, and it's a lot of fun to watch that play out.
Yeah, it's I'd love to see it if people like went back to their old content, if they went back to their old stuff and recorded. Or I guess you maybe just have them laying around in your Google Drive or something. But if you have old recordings of your games and then you made like a super cut of the difference between your first game and your current game, that would be great. Because I would just love, like I said, that one of the reasons why I'm here doing this show right now is purely because I like seeing the people in the chat who've made these leaps and bounds, or, people like Ice Pilot who've been around trolling me for, whatever it is now, 5 years,
That would be a really cool thing to see.
Yeah. Just see the evolution of the folks in the community is great.
Mm-hmm.
Byverse, this one is in the honorable mention. So I'm going backwards through the honorable mentions, giving the notes right now. Seeing you in the chat. The next one, Eclipse Showdown. Let me look at my notes on that really quickly. There we go. Okay. Wow, this is interesting, chat. My note starts with okay. So I spawned in dying immediately because the sun kills you. All right.
Nothing like instant death to really wake you up in the morning.
Eclipse Showdown is interesting because Eclipse Showdown had events that happened through the duration of play. And I think it's like a 20-minute timer, something like that you can reach. And we played through the duration of that timer. We restarted once before we got to the end of the first timer, just to, see how that sort of thing impacts. But different random events happen as you play. And I can't remember if they were on a loop or if they were truly random. I'm pretty sure they were on a loop because I don't remember having that exact thing happen. Spawn in dying immediately because the sun kills you. But in these different random events, the lighting conditions may change. This is good. All of the mechanics might pop off that like destroyed land tiles or made it so that standing where you're standing is a bad idea in any various ways. But so I wrote in this. I spawned in immediately. I'm dying because the sun kills you. When it was dark, the outside ring kills me. Which were like I don't know, you can vaguely see like these blue tiles on the outside edge there. Oh, yeah, those bluish tiles seem to deal damage when it was dark, but I actually think that they dealt damage all the time. I just never had to go to them unless it was dark. Picking up the floating tiles doesn't seem to matter. This is a big deal because one of the quests recommends that you grab the coins, which are these like orangish floating tiles with the blue accents on them.
Okay.
And using the weapon to attack doesn't clear the quest. So there was you may be able to see this indicator. It's sort of right along where their name is over there. It says slow practice. The indicator above this weapon. It was like a small, almost shield-like device that you could pick up, and while holding it, it would shoot a like grenade thing out. And presumably, you would use this to deal damage to the other player. But you were given a quest that says, and it's still up there in this trailer, to use the weapon to attack. But when you pick up the weapon, it doesn't. Like, it automatically attacks. So maybe you're using it as a tooltip here, but it felt like an achievement that I needed to do. So once I got that, because I know that this is like the quest group, once I picked up the weapon, it never cleared. So that felt a bit strange.
Not being able to clear a quest is, for some personality types, can be a little frustrating.
Yeah. So I'm thinking, like, what you probably want to do to solve the first couple sentences that I put up here is spawn the player in. No mechanics work. Nothing is happening, right? There's no loops happening in the background. There's a pop-up that comes up that says, here's how this game is going to work. We click OK on the pop-up, and then the OK triggers the beginning of all of your logics. Everything turns on, right? Turning the car engine over. So I wrote also, the weapon deals only 4 damage when you attack the other players. So having and I can't remember if this is because I actually attacked the other players or if I found out the damage happens because I attacked floor tiles. But I do remember the floor tiles seeming to be able to take damage. So I wrote, so having a way to survive the sun is more important than surviving the weapons. Most importantly, the main objective is to survive. But the players can respawn any number of times and it doesn't seem to matter. So there's no positive or negative points in terms of what we can acquire as a player. So if I am respawning, I need to have either a punishment for failure or an achievement for success, some type of a number that I can see my survival is working. If I'm not allowed to respawn, then, and you get the defeat screen, then you know that you didn't survive. in the same way that like battle royale games like Fortnite or whatever work. So I said, if you could add a way to protect from all possible damage, this would upgrade a lot. And I don't mean like a tool that you pick up necessarily, but I mean for each type of random event that could do harm, you should have a skill-based location that can save the player from that bad random event. The sun deals damage. At night, the moon seems to light up the blue tiles, right? So at night, if I'm standing on the trees in the middle, it should be safe. When the sun comes out, I should be standing on the blue tiles. And that'll for those in chat who haven't played this game, all of that like tree-like area in the middle slowly breaks down and disappears. So eventually, if what I just said was true, the players would have an increasing degree of difficulty of parkour just to maybe, it's nighttime, we're going to get over there. And eventually, at the very end, there's only a very little tiny space of 3 meters by 3 meters wide, and you wouldn't be able to reach the moon safe area. So you would be inevitably taking damage at some point. And that would be like, again, in a battle royale, when that circle slowly is coming in and eventually the players have to duke it out. That would happen here. So all of the things that I mentioned so far are all things where this game, as it is, has promised to be a solid game and really just needs that refinement. I think the format that this game is in, with that refinement, it might have been good enough to get top 3. But it was just missing a lot of small stuff along the way that affected that score negatively. I'm going to see if I can find my actual points for that. So I gave a 3, 3, a 2, and a 3 for that. So that's 3 for creative idea, a 3 for level design, a 2 for game design, and a 3 for playability. And
those are all out of 5.
All out of 5. The game design part hurt the playability because, again, there's no way to not take damage.
Gotcha.
The creative idea was not bad. And I was on the fence between a 3 and a 4, but we can't do half points. So creative idea would have been better, basically, if I see these mechanics making sense. Honestly, if I don't take damage like the second that I spawn, I'm going to feel a lot better about the idea of the sun burning me. You know what I mean?
That's fair. That's fair.
But nonetheless, so I'm going to go ahead and move on to the next one here. And I'm going to check and see if we have other comments as we go. Sorry, I'm just reading through the comments in the chat, and it looks like y'all are having a good conversation, so we're good.
Yeah, we're good. Trying to stay up with it.
Yes, sir. All right, so let's move on to the next one. We got Kaboom.
Love the name.
Kaboom. Okay, so right away the format I wrote looks like a different take on Bomberman here.
Okay.
Chat, if I'm just an ancient old man here, Bomberman was a game with really cute little pastel colored characters that would throw bombs at each other. And normally the whole map was filled with these obstructions, bricks that the bombs could blow up, or the bomb could blow up other players. And if you blow up the brick obstructions, it may spawn a buff that you could use to improve your bomb, right? And it's very similar to this in that it has this sort of grid-like tile. Some of the bricks were not destructible. But I wrote that the game lacks some of the complexity that made that game great. But this isn't too bad. I said, add a consequence to death to incentivize PvP play. Otherwise, we're all sort of just waiting to pick up coins. So you had some coins that would spawn randomly in this particular experience. And those coins, and you had some buffs, of course, that spawned as well. But those coins, if I can find one here, and it doesn't look like I can find one in the trailer. But the coins were really the only like points system that was showing, am I doing good? So you've got the number at the bottom center of the screen that just shows that you have one Kaboom coin for the player here so far. And you have to run away from like that gray box that can deal harm to the player, but there's only the one gray box, and there's no, you could chase the other players with bombs, and the bombs could deal damage, but when you took that damage, you didn't lose Kaboom coins points or anything like that. So there really was no consequences for failure, and there's not too much incentive to get more coins because there's no consequences for failure in this one. So areas of opportunity in terms of the gameplay loops, just to create engagement. Also, a game in this format tends to be a little bit more frantic because there's only one real tangible enemy, unless you've got like 6 or so players here based on the size of the map. They're probably not going to stress each other out. They're not going to make the game harder for each other. And yeah, that's sort of the whole fun factor of Bomberman.
Yeah, I mean, if you die and you don't lose any coins, then are we even really living?
All right, and then there's another one here. It looks like made by Craft Palm, and I'm going to see if that's just the last of the honorable mentions here. Meme Bomb Mayhem, again, very similar in idea to that Bomberman format. Let me find my notes because I know off the top of my head what this one is like.
It's like Bomberman meets Tron almost from just a bird's eye view.
Aesthetically speaking, for sure. I said this one is pretty impossible to lose if you have some experience. With that, it's also impossible to win because it is a PvP game. Bombs appear, and if you know you can't pick them up, you just walk away. If you have a blue bomb, you can't throw it, so there's no real threat from other players. Just avoid other players. So when I say this, there are multiple colors of bombs that may spawn. They spawn in the same defined places every time. It's not random. The amount of time it takes for those bombs to spawn, also not random. And they take about 3 or 4 seconds to explode. So if they do pop up in front of you, you just go, oh, and we turn around and go the other way. No big deal. You as a player can pick up the blue bombs, which are safe, but it's not made super clear until you actually die to one of the other bombs that the blue bombs are safe and they're pickable, because they don't look different aside from the color, and they don't highlight them like, hey, pick me up, you know. But if you do kill another player, this game offered something cool, and that is that there were these like 4 pillars on the outside of the map that fired cannons. Downside is that they fired in the exact same spot every time. You couldn't move it. So you don't, and there wasn't enough cannons to hit every location on the map. So you couldn't like just run around the outside loop to eventually maybe possibly kill the person who got you. Upside is when you did fire that cannon. When you did fire that cannon, it left like, you see like the Tronish grid that you're talking about, the blue grid? Yeah. It leaves a red grid for a second in the spot where the cannon is about to impact, which I thought was really nice. So it tells you. Exactly. It's a telegraph that's good. So the players on the outside have an opportunity to get the inside players, but the inside players can notice it just like they could notice the bombs to get away.
Okay.
I also wrote cannons just shoot at the middle, but there's no reason to run toward the middle because the outside will be there for an infinite amount of time. So if you do that thing where we make those outside layers disappear over time, then it would force people into the middle, and maybe the cannons wouldn't be so bad to only shoot the middle, because then it could come down to 1v1 or 2v2 on that middle gray tile area, and everybody else who had died is on a cannon trying to take them out. And that would add some frantic play in the end that could make this a little bit more engaging. And let's see here.
I recently started playing a game called Squad Busters, and they do that where it's that you have the entire arena at the beginning, but as you get like 15 to 30 seconds into the game, these angry vines start to grow around the edge, and they slowly compress. And each round is 5 minutes, and by the end of the 5 minutes, you have that only the center available.
Yeah, that's core, multiplayer competitive battleground style gameplay that
force people together.
Force them to be needing to use those blue bombs, because right now a person could hide on the bottom left forever, and game doesn't end. You just keep winning down there doing nothing.
Just keep winning. Yeah.
So I said, anyway, make this change where the outside edges become unwalkable over time in a round to push people together, and this might have a better gameplay loop. Good effort. So once again, these are things, this game could have easily been a top 10 experience. It just needed a reason to make all of your mechanics work in a way that forces people to be competitive, that forces that multiplayer aspect to work, because I think that the things you've done are fun, but they don't become fun unless they're a challenge for the player. And I want to be able to get into a lobby with not Jackie Chan in the chat, and not Jackie Chan blows me up and gets to laugh about it. But as it stands right there, there's not a lot of chance that they're going to catch me, because I have this whole map, and I always have this whole map to work with. So a simple thing can go a long way.
Yeah.
All right. So with that said, I'm doing my thing. I'm talking too much, chat.
What's happening next, Joe?
I'm going to run us into the 4th place through 1st place entries in this game jam. Each trailer is 2 minutes or less for each one of these trailers. And this is going to sort of be a wrap on the show. Normally, what Alex likes to do is run through the 1st place game and play it on his own. However, because Alex is not here, I'm going to play through the trailer, and I'm going to give you the feedbacks that I have for the 4th through 1st place to help these contenders make those games just a little bit more optimal if there's an opportunity to do so. And hopefully, when you publish this game on your land that you win from this game jam, you will have a higher quality game and get more people who've enjoyed it, and more people who are fans of you and your game studio. So, number 4, I actually don't even know.
And this is 4th place, and this isn't a particular order, not
this
no
is
particular
a
order,
particular
correct?
order. 4th place trailer right now, and I'm going to leave this one on loop as I talk about it here. And Lucas and I aren't on the screen. Forgive us, chat. I'm hiding our pretty faces to show your good game.
It's just such a beautiful game. We don't want to block it in any way, shape, or form.
4th place, coming in with a prize of 3,000 sand, a 1x1 land, and a silver catalyst pack. YTSE Jam submitted. Magic stick tag. All right. So the feedback that I wrote for this, you can see here in the trailer that they are playing this game in a 1v1 sort of situation. And so what happens logically in this game is that when you spawn in, you'll go to one of 2 rooms. And I believe the first person always goes into magic stick room, the tagger. And in that room, you must pick up said magic stick and then go chase people with it. Yeah?
That makes sense.
If they get touched with it, then they lose. And essentially, if you don't get touched or your team doesn't get touched with the stick, for each player that is not being touched, you are getting a point or 10 points. I forget exactly how it backs up. And then if the person who touches with the stick does so, then I think they get 10 points to your 1, something like that. Nonetheless, I wrote, this is disproportionately weighted toward the tagger, but with a large number of players, this could be great. I like what you've done to keep this simple, and it might be improved just a little bit by offering some spaces to hide in the map. Just maybe 4 to 8 spaces, so players can dodge the tagger a bit more while the tagger is busy with others. Good stuff. So what I'm talking about here in this trailer is the terraforming aspect of judging. And I'll see if I can find the numbers, but I'm talking about level design specifically here. Level design and game design have a sort of an intersection where the core of the level itself was really good, because if you're just watching, you can spectate from above, albeit maybe it's a little bit dark. If you're playing, you've got interesting verticality. You've got parkours that aren't super difficult. You've got climbable assets all over the place. You've got good opportunities for people to fail. But because all of the parkours are accessible, it allows for skill-based play that people refine over time and get just a little bit better with what may seem like simple jumps to some people, right? But in the hype of the moment, when you're trying to act and react to the other player and their movements, it's a lot easier to fall off of the platform. It's a lot easier to miss your jump when they turn to their right or something, you know. But
game music's a bit loud over your voice, according to Not Jackie Chan over on YouTube.
Okay, I will. Where's my levels for that? Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah. I got all the individual trailers. I didn't turn those down yet, so let me turn them down before I get on to the third place. But yeah, so, you know, when I talk about hiding spaces, it's pretty simple, right? A couple of holes in the ground, like caves, would be good hiding spaces. Maybe one of these platforms that you jump on only has one way into the platform. So if I go in that, I can hide, but now I can't see. And I can't see when the tagger is going to find me unless the tagger is in front of the door. And then you're like, oh! And it would give you a suspense, a surprise, right? It would make it more engaging for the hider as well if it's like, whoop, there's the tagger, you know, a la what you might have, those feelings you might get in Dead by Daylight, right? Without the scary part, would pop up. So you've got some opportunities here. Really great game. I'm just talking about really what's going to push that from 4th to 1st place in those suggestions, and the changes you probably want to make before you push it into the map.
Sundays are amazing, but they're even better when you put some extras on them. You know, sprinkles, cherries, whatnot. Joe's talking about the sprinkles and the cherries.
Yes. I honestly thought that you were just talking about like tomorrow, Sunday.
Oh,
the day.
Yeah. Ice cream sundaes. I should have prefaced that.
That's funny. All right, chat. I see what happened. See, what happened is I wasn't talking with my super enthusiastic voice, getting hyped, getting loud. I was talking with my normal inside voice. Chad, this is a mistake. We don't do that. We don't do that here. All right, let's merge in. We're going to check out 3rd place now in this Me More Game Jam. We got Last Meme Standing. All right, Last Meme Standing. This is a good one. This is an interesting one because you got to pick a team in the lobby. Yeah, so you can see the characters have varied here. You've got a Doja, Shiba, you've got a Degen, and random effects and events are going to happen, and you're trying to get the coins here. But what really makes this one interesting and dynamic is the little whales that you see that are cute. If you're pointed at a player and you, I believe, left click, maybe it's press E, boop, you could just yeet them off the map, just knock them back. Just like that, right? So the goal was not only to avoid obstacles that are on the platform, but you're incentivized to go to the edge of the platform where you may get knocked off because that's the only place where you can acquire points. You can only get the coins on the edges. So you could, your strategy could be try to just forcibly brute force someone off so that they lose, or to grab some coins. And in this, I forgot to say loop on that one. Here we go. Let's play it again. In this game, you're also tracking and you're able to tell if you're ahead and if they're ahead throughout using that board in the background. So if you're worried about, your progress and your achievement, you're able to check that. You can see it on the side of the screen. You can see it on the board in the background. And you want to get the highest percentage, but also essentially you just don't want to die. And it ends up being a really good game with some nice loops. But let's look at the notes that I have on this. Last meme standing, right?
It's adorable.
Let's see. Yeah, last meme standing. I wrote it. This is a nice little multiplayer battler. I would have liked the option to win by points, just in case everyone is good at staying alive. Maybe I can, or maybe I can, but I just didn't see it in the rules. So it happens that I beat my partner in testing on this one every time. Like just by throwing them off the map. Like I waited until they got greedy for a coin and went yeet, and then I collected some points for a while.
Well done.
Anyway, I said, regardless, this is nice and fun. Expand the battle area a bit and add some new variables, and this could compete with games like Gang Beasts. So
I don't like a Mario Party feel to it.
Yeah, it's similar to that too.
Okay. Because I'm not familiar with Gang Beasts, so.
Okay, yeah. So Gang Beasts is a game, if you aren't familiar with it, where you're essentially like plush toys. And there's another one called Animal Party that came out, I think, recently on Steam. That's pretty similar to Gang Beasts. But in that game, your arms are floppy. And if you pull the right trigger, you make your right hand grab someone. Or if you don't hold it, then it'll just like punch. And if you pull the left trigger, your left hand punches. And if you grab them with both hands, you can press I think it's like the X button on the controller, and it will raise your arms while using the grab function. So you can pick people up and throw them off the side of areas. But very much like this, right? Everywhere that's not the platform is bad. You're trying not to fall or be thrown. And so it's similar to this. And that's a game that sold millions of copies.
Yeah.
Both of those two games, widely popular games. So you've got a great format here. And I just want to see a little bit more in terms of make that battle area square probably.
The rectangular nature of it gave you some issues?
Well, it's not so much. It's just not that interesting. If maybe there was a hole in the center and it was a donut shape, that would be interesting. If it was
I see what you're saying.
Square that's a little bit
dynamic
smaller,
area.
Yeah, that would be interesting. What you want to have in a game like this, in this format, is not a game that takes 5 minutes to run through, but you want matches to be 2.5 minutes maybe. And because if I've got 20 people on here and we can throw each other off of this thing in 2.5 minutes, then that's great. I can be like, man, I gotta go to the store, but you know what? I got 5 minutes. Let me pop in and play around with this. You're like, I'm on a break at work. I'm gonna pop in and play this game for a couple of rounds, whatever. And so you've got these bites, this ability to make a game that's not just replayable but addicting. And
it's really funny you'd mention that specific time frame, because That game I was just talking about, Squad Busters. Their rounds are 5 minutes, and this morning before we got going, I remember thinking to myself, just like how long that felt, and as far as mini games are concerned, I was like, I kind of wish this was about 2.5 minutes long.
Yep. So we've got anyway. Again, this is a great game. Loved it.
Yeah.
Now, for second place. Once again, third place wins 5,000 sand, 1x1 land, and a silver catalyst pack. This second place game will win 8,000 sand, a 1x1 land, and a silver catalyst pack. So let's see.
That's so much sand.
Second. Second place is Candle Clash by Sanja Studio. Candle Clash is that game. It's that game. It's very, it's again, it's simple gameplay loops, right? It's competitive in nature. You got multiple teams, but you've got essentially 2 functions, which means it's easy to understand and it's difficult to master.
I love those games.
You can pick up the green candle and you can cash it in like it's capture the flag in Halo or something. Or you can pick up the red candles and throw them across the map and blow up these almost poker chip looking tiles that don't actually look like poker chips, right? And so you can see here in the trailer that the player in the green team is going very far away from the main base to capture a point amount that is, I think it's 7 points when you grab the biggest green candle. The upside is it's worth 7 points. The downside is it takes the longest to get there and requires the most skill to get there and back. In the meantime,
most visible.
You've also got these grenades of, red candles popping over and they're blowing up your tiles. So what happened in the games that I was playing in is my opponent didn't consider skill-based play thinking here how long it takes to get to the end versus the reward that you receive for getting to the end. And they didn't consider the fact that I might just be a malicious jerk. So what I did was I was always going for the +3 candle because it's barely harder to get there than the +1 candle, and the distance required to get to the +3 wasn't bad, right? Like if the +3 candle is a +2, then that would have been exactly how long, like those would have been even, and I should have grabbed the 1 all the time because it's safest, right? But it's a +3, so that's good. The +7 candle is great because it incentivized you to go all the way down. But I could usually grab a +3, come back, grab a red candle, and throw it at the +7 before they could grab a +7 and come back. Like right here, where they were by the +3, that's where I would throw the candle to as they're coming back, and they would fall to their infinite demise. So, we had some fun here in terms of it is simple, and when you think about those mechanics and you just scale them up to 20 people, you're still going to get all those good things because there will always be 3 people throwing bombs all the time, which is always going to cause 3 to 5 people to just fall to their death out of the 10 on the other side. And along the way, maybe those people are carrying candles, maybe they're not. There's 3 more candles that are just waiting to be picked up. So, it allows for nuance, and that nuance scales nicely. So overall, I just really liked the way that this went for balance.
Love hearing that.
Notes say, good design at its heart. Red candles should be able to trigger explosions when getting close to the other side, not having to rest on it. So when we throw those red candles, they do have to come to a stop on the tile to explode. If it was proximity-based explosions, then that would actually make it easier to hit the people that are, or hit the tiles that are near the +7, which would be a good thing, I think.
Okay.
and again, this would require checks and balances. Maybe you would end up needing more tiles around the 7 when you applied this proximity-based trigger. But the in the actual game, unlike in the trailer, in the realized version of the game, that +3 is actually a +5. Because my notes here say upgrade the +5 candles to +7 for better difficulty or balance. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe in the trailer they did that. Yeah, actually, yeah, maybe, because I think the middle one was a 3. So maybe the one at the very end was a +5. And I felt like the reward for getting that wasn't enough based on the difficulty for getting it. But it's probably because I was able to just throw those candles and get them real easy. So anyway, thinking about balance, if I was having proximity explosions, we would want that candle at the end to be worth +7 for sure, if it isn't already in your latest version. And then my last part just says fun with 2 or many more. Nice job. So no surprise that this one is getting in the top 2. And without further ado, chat, the
Number 1.
First place winner of the Meme War Game Jam, winning 15,000 sand, a 1x1 land, and a gold catalyst pack. This is made by NextPX, called Meme Soldiers Boot Camp. And I'm going to look at my notes on this. All right. So in this experience, you've got 2 teams playing against each other. Now, full disclosure, my notes are not indicative necessarily of everyone's views on this game. So the average on this was nicely up. Like, we all rated it pretty good.
Okay.
Like I gave it 4s across the board, but I still found stuff that I would change. So
that's okay.
Once again,
something can be really good and still, you can still have constructive feedback on it.
Yeah, exactly. So when I talk about these feedbacks, again, this is with the intention of taking it from a winner to a game people can't get enough of. So I wrote, interesting, decent game. A bit frustrating, mostly fighting the levels and not the other team. Not clear on which targets were mine and which targets were the enemy team. And the A side second level door did not open. So we had to exploit it a bit to keep having fun. So I'll run you through what that means as we're looking at the trailer here. This game was split up into, I believe, 4 tiers of gameplay. And as you're on each tier, you're trying to clear out obstacles. They may be target practice looking assets, or they may be obstacles on the level that can harm the player. But good side, basically everything is destructible in this game, it was a lot of fun to have everything.
So when you say everything's destructible, you mean like when you're shooting your little boom cannon, everything blows up?
For the most part. Like, okay, so you can see here, all of these targets, red or green, are damageable by both teams. So it gives you a lot of opportunity to go and, again, hit some targets. However, when you start up the game, it's not clear which team has to prioritize which targets. So what happened in our playtest is that me and the other folks were literally shooting the wrong colors. But we didn't notice because we were shooting them consistently bad, if that makes sense. Like, I would hit one, they would hit one. I would hit one, they would hit one. And so we're seeing our team's number go up and going like, oh, we must be doing it correct. But then it occurred to me that it wasn't correct, because when I shot all of the green ones, I went, oh, why didn't my door open? Their door opened. And then I went, dang it, we're doing it wrong. And they went, what? Because they were having trouble shooting the red targets. So I shot all their red targets for them just so that we could move on to the next level. Obviously, I could have kept going and like just smashed through the 4 levels or whatever. And then on floor 2, as mentioned, my door didn't open. However, the dev had a fix for it built into the game, because there was actually a ladder that was like sort of outside the clear territory that I was able to climb up and sort of cheese my way into the next level. And the game logic didn't break just because the door didn't open. However, the game wasn't perfect because that door didn't open, if that makes sense. So in the end, you know, we get up to the very top level, and on the top level it does something new and dynamic versus what it did in the rest of the game, where these little coins that are laying all about end up being important, but only at the end. So while you see in the trailer, like the guy's mostly just standing there, it actually would have been more efficient for level 4 if they went around and picked up all these coins while they were shooting at stuff. So if I'm if I'm going back for a second gameplay loop, now that's where the skill-based play gets to come in, and the nuance gets to come in. You know, the experience matters. Have I played this game before? That's going to make a difference, because green team now all of a sudden, or whatever, would, in the end, you need to have at least 5,000 points worth of those little coins picked up, where the little tiny coins give you like 10 and the big coins give you 100. So if you've collected no coins and you get to floor 4, now, well, that's all you're doing is collecting coins, and you may be behind the ball on that. So it would give a team that looks like they're losing an opportunity to appear to have a comeback on the very last floor, which is really fun, right? It sets a different dynamic that again, I think push this one into the top. So things I would probably change if I'm off my notes here is that each floor is still flat. And so, you know, with the exception of the top floor, pretty much, and with little difference there. So I'd like to see more like almost corridors in here, things that don't obstruct the camera per se, but do make it like surprising when an enemy team pops out around that corner, even if you're not directly harming each other. That could make it interesting. Some slightly more verticality, because it seems like you used about half of the available vertical space in the land, where you could have probably gone all the way and used the whole vertical space with the format that you built this in. Even if you just use four layers, for 4 different games, essentially 4 rounds. Nonetheless, really, really good game. And I recommend that everybody who's watching goes and checks out these games inside the Game Maker gallery. They're all pretty easy to find. If you type the word Meme War, they should pop up.
Right up
in that Game Maker gallery. Make sure that you, at the top of the Game Maker, if you can't find them when you're typing Meme War, click on the word all instead of featured, and you'll be able to find those experiences in there. Because it's really easy to type, like you type in the search and you expect it to come right up, but you're still searching through what is featured. And so if you click all, you'll be able to find them. And you can also filter by what version of the Game Maker you have, but I like to leave that up to all as well. So what do you think, Lucas?
I think it looks like a lot of fun. And I'm excited to, when we do these Game Jam award shows, I write down some games, and afterwards, when I got some time, I go and I check them out. I got a nice little list, and this is definitely on it. Yeah. Number 1 is always on it.
When you've got games like this jam, it makes me really excited for, you know, not just the stuff I want to play with my friends, but also for those Friday shows, right? Those are happening on Fridays, right? Where we get together with Panda and Alex.
Yeah.
This game jam was made for that show. You know, like there's so much content here where you're gonna be a master and just rub Panda's face in it when she loses, and she's just so definitely not toxically competitive. It's really fun to
not at all.
Yeah, not at all competitive. But yeah, I mean, I'm looking forward to playing some of these with you all here in the future. So make sure that you, if you're not already following the channel over on YouTube, liking, whatever, subscribing, depending on the format, make sure you do that here at the Sandbox Game. We want to help you make better, higher quality games and have fun in the metaverse. And
Heck yeah.
let me just merge on over to a screen where you can see our faces now one more time. And I'm just going to go back and pretend like we just started this stream. Well, Lucas, it's been my pleasure to hang out with you here today. A couple of good hours.
Pleasure. Yeah. Before we end things, though, we do have a giveaway form that I've already done, and I'm going to announce the winner right now.
Okay. See, this was a secret, Chan. I didn't even know he did a giveaway.
I didn't
know.
Stealth drop.
Sneaky.
This very sneaky. Congratulations goes out to the one, the only, this, sometimes trolly, but always kind and happy to see him. IcePilot.eth, you have won yourself a spoin, my friend. Yes, we said it, or I said it, a spoin. It's got my face on it. It's going in your wallet. Congratulations. There's only a nice little handful of them, but since I don't often get to do these Game Jam award shows, I want it to be a special giveaway.
I love it.
And so the spoin it is. Congrats.
That's awesome. I'm excited. I've got those in my wallet. And I guess IcePilot.eth, right? You just covered it right there. I know exactly where to send it. I know exactly where to send that bad boy. So we'll send that over to you in just a couple of minutes, Ice. And I can get that out right now. Happening on the Matic network. That's just going to boom, boom, be there. That asset is fun because it's an homage to one of the very first live streams that ever happened on this channel. And I think the very first live stream that I was a co-host on with Alex. And it's just lovely to have Lucas's face as our featured spoin. Essentially, Alex wanted to say spinning coin. Didn't work out for him. We memed it up. I whipped up something in Photoshop in like 10 minutes. And then it turned into a whole thing. So those OGs know, if you're in the chat, we used to have people type !spoin. And you know what? Since they brought it up, I believe that Batman, who was it that brought that up? Was it Batman that brought that up?
No, it was Dr. Metaverso.
Dr. Metaverso, thank you. Dr. Metaverso, I'm going to send you one too. Just because you brought it up and I felt inspired when I saw it. I'm like, you deserve it. Thanks for being here, Lucas. Thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me.
Chatters. We've been having a good time here. The Meme War Game Jam is officially done. Once again, if you did submit your game to the Game Jam and you want that feedback, that'll be sent to the email in which you submitted your experience. So anybody who didn't get notes today and you want to read your notes, you'll get your notes from two of the testers, myself and a co-tester named Nicholas. We will be sending you our notes from the council side, and the Sandbox side keeps their stuff private to them and any other external teams. I don't have their notes, chat, but I got ours. So you'll get your feedback in an email. And if you don't want it, you can always say you don't want the feedback and we won't send it to you. That's cool too. But until next time, Lucas, good morning. Do you know the thing?
Good afternoon.
Hey, good evening, chat. It's been great hanging out with you here today. Have a nice day.
Bye, everyone. Thank you for stopping by.
Bye-bye.